Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
A man sexually assaulted his 13-month-old baby daughter shortly before she died, a family court judge ruled today. But Paul Worthington won't face any criminal action unless new evidence comes to light. Poppi Worthington was found with serious injuries in December 2012, and Cumbria police have been accused of failing to carry out any real investigation into what happened for months. Our North of England correspondent Kieran Jenkins is in Barrow-in-Furness now. Kieran.
Well, this is a truly disturbing case and one which until now has been kept secret. It's only after repeated requests from the media that we finally have an account of what may have happened to Poppi Worthington, 13-month-old baby found dead at her home here in Barrow-in-Furness in December 2012 with serious injuries. And what we have is the conclusions of Mr. Justice Peter Jackson, a High Court judge in the family court. And his conclusion is that Paul Worthington, Poppi's father, sexually assaulted Poppi shortly before her sudden death. He said that Poppi went to bed that evening, a healthy baby put to bed by her mum, and was carried downstairs some 8 hours later in a lifeless state and with troubling injuries. And that same judge was also pretty scathing of Cumbria police, accusing them of astonishing incompetence in investigating this case. He says that the scene was not secured, evidence not sent for forensic analysis, and no real investigation until around 9 months later. Following that investigation, Paul Worthington was released without charge. Now, the Barrow MP, John Woodcock, wants a new criminal investigation, and he doesn't want Cumbria police to have anything to do with it.
The verdict from the judge today is truly shocking, and I just appeal to the police and the police officers to come out from their headquarters in police office and face the public on this. Unless they can show categorically that they understand the depth of the failings, they will do deep damage to the force's reputation across the county.
Now, the CPS has said today that there was insufficient evidence to prosecute Paul Worthington at the time. They will listen, though, to any new evidence that comes to light. It's important to remember this was a judge in the family court saying what he did. It wasn't a criminal court, and Paul Worthington isn't on trial. And through his lawyer today, he has said he does not accept the findings of the court and insists he did not hurt his daughter. Now, there will be, at the very least, a second inquest into young Poppi's death. The last one was held here at Barrow Town Hall. It lasted all of 7 minutes.
Kieran, thanks very much indeed. Now, a criminal case should be reopened against Paul Worthington, who's accused of sexually abusing his 13-month-old daughter shortly before she died, an MP has declared. John Woodcock told the Commons it was the only way to salvage some justice for Poppi. Other MPs described her death as a depressingly familiar catalogue of failure and cover-up by police and social services. Our North of England correspondent Kieran Jenkins is in Barrow-in-Furness now. Kieran.
Well, people here in Barrow and elsewhere, no doubt, are probably wondering today, after this disturbing, worrying case has finally been made public, would today be a day of answers, maybe some explanations from those implicated, because the questions are very serious for Paul Worthington, Poppi's father, who we now learn has been accused by a High Court judge of sexually assaulting his own daughter before her death, for Cumbria police, who we now learn hadn't investigated that case, for Cumbria Council, who not just in the short term wanted to keep this quiet, but wanted this kept quiet for a further 15 years. But there were no answers today, and where there's previously been secrecy in this case, today there was silence. Although the story of Poppi Worthington is no longer a secret, justice, as yet, is no closer. Not a whisper from Paul Worthington, her father, today, nor from police, who presided over a timeline of delays and missed opportunities. It begins with Poppi's death in December 2012. Within 6 days, a pathologist had warned police that she suspected sexual abuse. Shortly after, The pathologist phoned police again, repeating her warning. It wasn't until June, however, that she completed her post-mortem report. And 2 months later, Poppi's parents were arrested and questioned by police. Then in October 2014, an inquest that lasted just 7 minutes to conclude that Poppi's death was unexplained. After an 18-month investigation, police finally said nobody would be charged. In Westminster, an urgent question. Barrow's MP demanding answers at the highest level.
Though the failures happened after the child's death, not before, the combined failure of several agencies is every bit as serious as those which contributed to the deaths of Victoria Climbié and of baby Peter in Haringey. Will the government make clear that they value Poppi's life as greatly by ordering now a similarly thorough, independent investigation into how the failings happened? Will they, as the second inquest is continuing, order a separate force to come in and take over the investigation into Poppi Worthington's death to try to salvage some prospect of justice for her life?
For all the authorities involved, there's no longer anywhere to hide. As the government made clear.
There was an investigation by Ofsted in 2015 into Cumbria Social Services, and it was found to be inadequate, and the Department for Education is currently in the process of an intervention into Cumbrian social services to ensure that child social services are properly working in Cumbria and that all children in Cumbria have the support and the protection that they so rightly need.
It's a case that shocked this proud Cumbrian town. If the police here have failed people, though, they aren't admitting so just yet. Even after being accused by Mr. Justice Peter Jackson of astonishing incompetence. Items at the hospital, this judge said, like bedsheets, weren't preserved for forensic analysis. The scene at the family home, not secured. Poppi's last nappy, thrown away with police officers present. And key witnesses, including Poppi's parents, not formally interviewed until 9 months after her death. And so it is that 3 years on, nobody can say for sure how this young baby died, and nobody has been held to account. Now, if you're wondering how a judge can accuse a father of sexually assaulting his own daughter without there being repercussions, your answer is that this all happened in the family court, not a criminal court. And indeed, Paul Worthington contests the findings of the judge in that court. And according to our laws here in the UK, Paul Worthington is presumed innocent until such a time, if there is one, that a jury in a criminal court finds him guilty. And for that to happen, of course, there would have to be a new criminal investigation. And for that to happen, there would have to be new evidence. And one thing we know about this case, thanks to the first police investigation, is that evidence was in very short supply. And so Paul Worthington tonight insists and continues to insist that he is innocent. And in fact, tonight the situation is that he is not under investigation in any form or shape whatsoever.
Kieran, thanks very much indeed. But we did ask for a Home Office interview, but no one was available. But we are now joined from Westminster by Conservative MP Tim Loughton, a member of the Commons Home Affairs Committee and Children's Minister from 2010 to 2012. Thanks for coming on the programme, Mr. Loughton. I mean, to be honest, looking at this case, it is very hard to know where to begin. There are so many shameful omissions here. What is your reaction?
It's appalling, and I'm afraid it's an all too familiar catalogue of incompetence, failure, and cover-up. And the extraordinary thing that straight after that baby's death, a Home Office pathologist, a well-respected, well-qualified pathologist, said that there were clear signs of sexual abuse. That should immediately have set alarm bells ringing, and the police leapt into action to secure the scene, get the evidence and investigate it properly, liaising with local children's services. There were other children in that family involved. And none of this has happened, and the evidence is not there. It's difficult to see how another criminal investigation can get off the ground, and somebody is responsible for that child's death, and they are on the loose.
So I mean, justice may very well never come, but something clearly has to happen. So would you back a call for a new criminal investigation, but also a wholesale inquiry into the police behaviour?
Yes, and we have to see how a new criminal investigation can get off the ground, because there is a criminal out there, whoever he or she may be, responsible for that child's death by the looks of it. But the way the police responded to this, the way they just told the pathologist that she was making rash judgments and didn't believe her, is extraordinary. They should have investigated this properly. It was ages and ages before the parents were interviewed. But where's the serious case review from this? Serious case reviews are there to find out exactly what has gone wrong in cases like this. 3 years on, there's no sign of it. And what lessons are we to learn from this?
But to be honest, we've had a whole range of reviews since 2007, since Baby P, and every time there's a review, people shake their heads, but nothing actually seems to change.
Well, I disagree that nothing seems to change, because we initiated a reform of child protection and the way that social workers go about their business in 2010 when the new government came in. And one of the first things that I did then as Children's Minister was to make sure that serious case reviews, which are put together in cases like this of serious abuse to children, are published. In the past, they were kept secret. And this is another issue here. Why was this kept under wraps? Why there are attempts to keep it secret when clearly there's a public interest in finding out what had happened to this child and the safety of remaining siblings within that family? There's serious questions to be asked there as well.
You were still Minister in charge of children in 2012. This case happened in 2012. What did you do on your watch to try and prevent this kind of thing from happening? And it clearly failed in this case.
Well, I was only the Children's Minister until September of 2012. This tragic death happened in the December of last year. One thing I did as Children's Minister, at the beginning of each week, I would routinely have reports of deaths, of abuse against children and cases going through, and we would look at them and make sure that they were being handled properly. Also in this case, a Home Office pathologist flagged up her concerns and presumably spoke to Home Office ministers as well. So I want to know what action was taken by the government. I know what I would have done if I'd still been the minister at that stage and this had come out into the open. It's all been kept under wraps, and all that time justice has not been done by this poor 13-month-old toddler who's been killed in the most ghastly way, and we've got to get to the bottom of it, learn the lessons and make sure other people are safe.
Indeed. I've got to leave it there. Tim Loughton, thank you very much indeed.